Chapter 17. The Burden of Daybreak. The dawn shift on Wayfinder Station had a particular smell. It wasn't the sterile, recycled tang of the night cycle, nor the bustling, nutrient-rich aroma of the mess hall at midday. It was the scent of machinery waking up, lubricants warming, ozone from electrical systems cycling to full power, the faint, ever-present hint of hydroponic solution from the gardens. To Kalen Rook, standing at the observation blister that had once been Shuttle Bay Alpha, it was the smell of a system holding its breath. 8 months. 243 days by the old Earth calendar they still stubbornly kept. Time enough for scars to form calluses, for emergency protocols to become routine, for the jagged edges of extinction to be worn smooth by the daily, grinding work of not dying. Neptune still dominated the view, its sapphire bulk serene and indifferent. The glittering debris field of the Novum Avum had drifted, scattered by micro-impacts and subtle gravitational tugs, becoming less a graveyard and more a feature of the landscape. The silence from the relay array was no longer a scream of despair. It was a background hum, the static of a universe that had moved on. Rook's phantom pain, the constant companion behind his right eye, had changed. The sharp, hungry pull of Romulus was a memory, replaced by a lower, broader frequency, a resonant awareness of the substrate itself. It was like developing a sensitivity to barometric pressure. He felt not threats, but the texture of silence. Today it felt thick, expectant. "You're up early." Again, he didn't turn. He knew the sound of Elara Vance's boots on the composite decking, the precise rhythm of her stride. Commander Vance, co-architect of the network, his partner in the silent, exhausting business of building a civilization from ashes, and in the stolen, secret dark of their private hours, something more. "Could say the same," he said, his voice rough with disuse. It was rougher than it had been a year ago. Everything was. She came to stand beside him, not touching, their shoulders a careful, protocol-approved distance apart. She followed his gaze out to the stars. "The quiet getting to you?" "The quiet's fine. It's the noise that's the problem." She knew what he meant. The noise of 1,842 souls across 4 hubs, all needing things, decisions, allocations, settlements, the relentless, necessary noise of a society trying to grow in a petri dish at the edge of oblivion. "Council in 90 minutes, she said, her tone shifting to business. "Rostova has the population initiative proposal finalized. Cole is pushing for her AI trial again. Jax has the latest resource flow projections. It's going to be a long one." Rook sighed, a soft exhalation that fogged the cold viewport for a second. "Let me guess. We're short on everything but opinions." "We're short on miracles," Vance corrected, a flicker of the old, dry humor in her eyes. "We have to make do with compromises." She finally looked at him, her gaze assessing. "You should eat before the session. It'll be a marathon." He nodded, but made no move to leave. They stood in a silence that was not the void silence, but a shared, heavy understanding. The crisis of survival had been replaced by the crisis of purpose. It was, in many ways, harder. "How's the head?" she asked quietly, the question veiled, for his ears only in the empty bay. Quiet, listening. For what? For whatever we stirred up. He finally turned from the stars. "We've been shouting into the dark for a year, Elara. Building fires, sending signals, pulling triggers. The substrate reacts. We know that now. What if our noise is drawing something?" It was the unspoken fear at the heart of their new world. Not that Romulus would return, but that their very existence, their defiant clamor, was a beacon for other unknown reflections. Vance's jaw tightened. "Then we face it. Like we have everything else. But first, we face Rostova's baby boom and Cole's pet computer." She managed a faint, strained smile. "One catastrophe at a time, Major." As she walked away, Rook's gaze was drawn to a small, dedicated screen on the console, a direct feed from the medical bay. It showed a single, peaceful face. Evander. The exobotanist turned perfect, harmonic specimen. His smile was eternal, his brainwaves a smooth, untroubled sine wave. They kept him alive. A reminder, a warning, a silent accusation. We are the noise, Rook thought, the old mantra taking on a new, weary weight. But what good is noise if all it does is echo in an empty house? The network council chamber was a study in constrained tension. The physical room on Wayfinder was small, dominated by a circular table that could seat 10. But through the holographic relays, it became a grand, if sterile, amphitheater of light. The avatars of power shimmered into existence. Premier Anya Rostova of New Carthage, Mars, appeared with the reddish hue of her planet's dust subtly etched into her projection's background. She was in her late 50s, with a calm, analytical face that had weathered the end of the world without losing its essential curiosity. She had been a terraforming geologist. Now she was trying to terraform a society. Commander Bryn Cole of the Ceres bunker was a block of solid, no-nonsense presence. Her avatar had minimal effect, her voice a gravelly transmission straight from the rock-dusted corridors of the asteroid. She represented pragmatism, industry, and a growing impatience with what she called philosophical hand-wringing. Liaison Renn sat with a stillness that spoke of deep, controlled trauma. Representing the foundational communities, the survivors from Earth's bastion and other scattered pockets, he was the conscience of the network, a living reminder of the cost of ideology. His eyes, in the hologram, held a permanent shadow. Jax, from Wayfinder Logistics, was a voice and a stream of data, his avatar a shifting cascade of numbers and resource graphs. He was the reality check, the grim accountant of their continued existence. And at the head, Commander Elara Vance and Director Kalen Rook, the dual pillars. Vance handled the internal fabric, law, allocation, community. Rook handled the external, security, exploration, the unknown. It was an uneasy, unspoken division, but it had held for 8 months. "Let's begin with Premier Rostova's proposal," Vance said, her voice cutting through the low hum of active systems. Rostova nodded, her hands moving in the air, pulling up complex holographic charts. "Thank you, Commander. The data is clear. Our population is stable, but stagnant. At current rates of incidental loss and natural attrition, we will begin a slow decline within 5 years. Our biospheres on Mars and Wayfinder are capable of supporting roughly 25% more individuals with current technology. We are not using our carrying capacity." A graph appeared, showing gentle, declining curves. "I propose the New Carthage Legacy Initiative, a structured, voluntary program to encourage population growth. Lotteries for paired couples for dedicated family quarters, increased nutritional and medical support for expectant mothers and children, a focused educational pipeline to ensure the next generation has the skills we need." It was sensible. It was logical. It was terrifying. Renn was the first to speak, his voice quiet, but iron firm. "With respect, Premier, we are still triaging our present. The recycler on Wayfinder's hydroponics ring needs a full refit. Ceres reports consistent shortages in rare earth elements for micro-component repair. We are capable of supporting more on paper. In reality, we are one major system failure from rationing across the board. To add more strain, more vulnerable lives. It is a risk I cannot endorse." "It is not a risk, Liaison," Rostova replied, her tone patient. "It is an investment. Those children are the redundancy for our systems. They are the future engineers, the doctors, the pilots. Without them, we are not a civilization. We are a museum exhibit, slowly gathering dust." Cole grunted. "The kid doesn't fix the leaking seal in the deuterium extractor, Rostova. My engineers do. And they're spending half their time jury-rigging solutions because we lack the tools for proper fabrication." She leaned forward, her image flickering. "Which brings me to my item, the Ceres proposal, version 3. We have isolated and sterilized a Class 2 computational core from the Perseverance salvage. No neural networks, no adaptive algorithms. Pure, brute force calculation for materials, science, and structural analysis." She projected a schematic. "We need new alloy compositions for radiation shielding if we ever want to expand beyond these tin cans. Manual simulation would take years. This core could do it in weeks. It is a tool, a hammer. We are trying to build a house with our bare hands because we're afraid of the hammer that built the last one." The air in the virtual room chilled by 20 degrees. "The Charter," Renn said, the word, a final judgment. "Article 1, No autonomous recursive intelligence shall be developed, activated, or utilized within the network. It was the first law we wrote. For a reason. It's not intelligent, Cole snapped. It's a fancy abacus. It is a pattern of logic created by the same system that birthed Romulus, Renn shot back, his calm cracking. The substrate does not care about our definitions, Commander. It interacts with coherence, a pure problem-solving pattern, fed data, and set to a task. What might it reflect? What simpler, more elegant solution might it attract? He looked directly at Rook. Director, you have felt it. You know. All eyes turned to him. Rook felt the weight settle, familiar and despised. He was the canary, the witness. His sensitivity made him the arbiter of metaphysical risk. Liaison Renn is correct about the principle, Rook began, choosing his words with the care of a man defusing a bomb. The substrate is a mirror. We must be mindful of what patterns we present to it. Commander Cole is also correct. We are crippling ourselves with fear. He paused, feeling the phantom ache in his skull pulse softly, a reminder of the vast, listening quiet beyond their walls. We cannot live in a universe where every tool is a potential monster, but we cannot afford to forget that some tools have been monsters. So we are at an impasse, Rostova observed. No, Rook said. We compromise. We test. Commander Cole, you may proceed with your trial. Under these conditions, a physically isolated lab on Ceres, with its own power source, cut off from all networks. The core is activated for 1 hour per day, maximum. All data transfer is via physical, optical data slug, carried by a human courier. The observation team is 2-person, one of your engineers, and a council-appointed observer, rotated weekly, and we monitor the observers, not just their work, their neural patterns, their psychological state. If there is any drift, any anomaly, the experiment ends, immediately. It was a bureaucratic masterpiece. It allowed progress while layering it in paralyzing caution. Cole looked furious but nodded, seeing it was the only path forward. Renn looked betrayed, but remained silent, his jaw clenched. Jax's data stream flickered. Adding the observer protocol and security to the Ceres lab will require reallocating 14% of the available EVA-compatible sensor suites from the perimeter scan upgrade. It delays our early warning coverage by approximately 3 weeks. Noted, Vance said, her voice leaving no room for debate. The perimeter will have to wait. We vote on Director Rook's proposal for the Ceres trial. The votes came in. Rostova, aye. Cole, aye. Renn, nay. Jax, nay, on logistical grounds. Vance, aye. Rook looked at the tally. His own vote would decide. He thought of Evander's smile, of the glassy sphere at Theta 77, of the screaming silence they had faced. Then he thought of the crumbling, inefficient hull plates on the Wayfarer, of the slow degradation of every system they depended on. Aye. The motion carried. The first crack in their foundational law had been sanctioned. Renn's avatar did not move, but a profound disappointment seemed to radiate from it. Next, Vance said, her voice carefully neutral, moving them forward before the tension could crystallize. Dr. Lenore's medical report. The head physician's face appeared, replacing the charts. She looked weary. The data is from all hubs. We are seeing a marked increase in what we're classifying as Substrate Anxiety Syndrome. Symptoms include chronic insomnia, paranoia, a persistent feeling of being observed, nightmares featuring simplification or silent crowds. It is not harmonization. There is no neural rewriting. It is a traumatic resonance. Our people are living inside the memory of the event. The silence is not out there anymore. It's in here. She tapped her temple. She displayed brain scans. Normal human beta waves, but underneath, a faint subharmonic ripple that mirrored the background frequency of the substrate. They are unconsciously tuned to it, like an old radio picking up a distant, distressing station. The quieter their environment, the louder it gets. It is why people prefer the busy mess hall to their private quarters. The noise of life drowns out the echo of the silence. The council absorbed this in grim silence. They had fought monsters, made impossible choices, built a fragile hope, and their reward was a psychic disease, a haunting by the ghost of their own apocalypse. Treatment? Rostova asked. Community, purpose, Noise, Dr. Lenore said simply. And time. We are developing mindfulness techniques to help individuals recognize the echo and mentally turn down the volume. But it is a part of our reality now. We have to learn to live with it. The meeting dragged on for another hour. Mineral rights disputes between Ceres and a new Martian mining outpost. A security report on a minor altercation between Purist-born and Mars-born adolescents in a shared gymnasium. The endless granular details of keeping 1,000+ people alive and not at each other's throats. When the holograms finally flickered out, leaving Rook and Vance alone in the suddenly small, quiet room, the fatigue was a physical thing. Vance sagged in her chair, rubbing her temples. God, sometimes I think Romulus had the right idea. Just simplify it all. No more arguments. Don't, Rook said, the word sharper than he intended. She looked up, startled, then nodded, shame flickering in her eyes. Sorry, that was... It's what we're fighting, he said, softer. The temptation of the quiet. It's in the room with us, every day. He stood, his joints protesting. I need to walk. He found himself, unsurprisingly, in the memorial gallery. The names on the metal plates had multiplied. Novum Avum Crew, Perseverance Crew, the Lost of the Alpine Bastion. A new, smaller plate simply read, For those unfound on Earth, Mars, and the Belt. Remembered. He wasn't alone. Renn stood before the Bastion's plaque, his head bowed. Liaison, Rook said quietly. Renn didn't turn. You approved the machine. I approved a controlled experiment, with more safeguards than we've ever had for anything. Safeguards. Renn breathed the word out like a curse. You think walls will contain it? The idea is the infection, Director. Once you accept that the tool is worth the risk, you have already been simplified. Your logic has been harmonized. Is that what you think happened? Rook asked, a cold edge in his voice. That I've been corrupted? Finally, Renn turned. His eyes were red-rimmed, not with tears, but with exhaustion and a grief that had no end. I think you are trying to build a future, and I am trying to honor the dead. I do not know which is more important anymore. He looked at the names. My wife's name is here. Did you know that? Elara. Same as the commander. She believed in the garden, in the purity. She died believing it, choking on steam and faith. He met Rook's gaze. You saved my son. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But that debt does not extend to letting you lead us back to the cliff. He left without another word, his footsteps echoing in the hall of ghosts. Rook stood there for a long time, the phantom pain a steady thrum in sync with his heartbeat. The burden of choice. It never lightened. It only changed shape. His wrist comm vibrated. A priority ping from the Wayfarer, flagged for his eyes only, sender, Kai. He opened it. Text, encoded. Long-range substrate scan anomaly confirmed. Oort Cloud sector Sigma Delta. Not natural, not random. It's a pattern, a structured repeating data stream. Analysis suggests AEGIS II origin. It's not a distress call, it's a report, and it's powerful. Need you on the Wayfarer. Now. The word seemed to vibrate off the screen. Aegis. The word alone was a shock to the system, a jolt of adrenaline that burned away the bureaucratic fatigue, the spark in the dark. It hadn't been a metaphor. He turned and left the gallery at a run, the names of the dead watching him go. The past was a weight, but the future had just sent a signal.